Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of AI Horizons. This season, I really wanted to focus on industry-specific topics. And today we have Sandy Boxall, CEO of Contract Finder Pro, an AI bid writing tool. I can certainly resonate with the the length of time it takes to write bids and tenders and everything. So I'm really excited to hear about this product and what it can do and the problems it's solving. So welcome, Sandy.
Thanks, Jonathan. Nice to be here.
Thanks for joining us. So always love to start these sessions with just a short intro on, on yourself and, kind of how you've got to where you are now and then starting, Contract Finder Pro. So yeah, over to you for a short intro, Sandy.
Sure. Thanks, Jonathan. So I've been selling the government my whole career, which is now 20 something I don't want to think about years long. Did a bit with BA Systems quite a long time, PA Consulting, various kind of projects and similar beasties. Found myself in kind of account management and then sales director roles. And I started noticing there were things I didn't have that I wanted. So kind of back in 2018, kind of while AI was a thing, but not a thing that everybody knew about, but we still called it data science and machine learning, I noticed that we were not catching all the tender opportunities that were coming out. And we had a man called Alistair who was very good, but he had a habit of going on holiday and wouldn't work then. And so in the kind of best tradition of entrepreneurship, I complained to my friend Dave in the pub. And after several pints, we thought it was a good idea. And after a few more pints, we could have it ready in about a week. Some of that was true. Some of that was not true. Several years later, we got to gradually doing things part-time. And then the AI revolution came along, and still a sales director, my kind of main job. I was like, right, Dave, I don't really want to write bids if I can avoid it. They take a long time. You kind of alluded to that before. There's a lot of detail. There's lots of prose. It gets a bit repetitive. You do a lot of time just collating information, chasing individuals, and then, frankly, at 11:30 at night, rewriting where people have misspelt the name of your company and going through a 10,000-word document to find all the typos, which is frankly quite miserable and really not very sensible in an AI era where there's a machine can do that in about a second and a half. So talking to Dave, I said, look, there is a definite market for AI bid writers. They can save you time. If you can save time, you can also write a better bid. Inevitably, what happens is you end up kind of 20 minutes before the end frantically writing and trying to edit things to take 12 words out to duck under the word count. And so it's probably worth clarifying, I'm focusing on public sector bids. Private sector ones can be a bit different. Paperwork can often be less. But the public sector absolutely adores paperwork and questions and asking the same question hundreds of times to different suppliers. It's not a job for people to do. That's a job that should be automated, frankly. And then when you get to your prosy answers, where they might ask, give us your solution, how do you solve this problem, give us 3 case studies where you've done X, Y, Z in 500 words, and it'll always be a weirdly specific number of words or a page. That's a really good use case for AI. So we went out and built one. Took a while, obviously, and we kind of released it back towards the end of last year. And we found a whole host of really interesting things of how it works. And I think this is sort of symptomatic of AI generally. I'm not going to talk about myself as a technical expert because that would be wildly overselling my ability. I come more from I know what I need a bid to look like perspective. And we found that a group of LLMs working as a team actually got a better result than just one LLM answering the question. So we produced a system that uses RAG, so retrieval-augmented generation, he says, actually. And what that does is it takes information from all the sources you upload. So you go, here are all my case studies, here are my previous work, here's how I do solutions. And then our system will use RAG to lift the relevant material and answer the questions. And it goes through a process where there is an LLM writing a storyboard. So the storyboard, frankly, anybody writing bids, major bids without storyboards is probably not winning. That was something I noticed in bidding. You need to write what you're trying to get into the data. You need to get a shape to it. You can't just write and randomly hope something turns up. No professional author does that who's writing a book, but we do that a lot in bidding. So you found that an LLM doing the storyboard and an LLM doing the answering and an LLM choosing the sources work together really, really well to produce a good output. And then you can put loads of other really interesting AI tools around it. And I look back 8 months ago, I look at the product we had then, and I kind of cringe a bit compared to what it can do now. I do think as an entrepreneur, if you're not cringing at your product when you released it the first time, you're probably missing the point. Because it has to keep getting better. You get your minimum viable product to market, and you get it as quick as you can, and then you go, right, what's wrong with it?
Well, it's a fascinating product, I must say. And the fact as well that you number one, the idea come from a few pubs in the pint with Dave. That's brilliant. It's fascinating how many good ideas come from a a few beers in the pub for sure. But also, the fact that you said yourself you're not a technical expert,
No.
but the fact that you've managed to come up with this solution that really does solve a genuine problem, because I can really understand the length of time it takes to submit a tender, the amount of information and work that needs to go into that, and for potentially, not even a reason why you didn't win the bids. It's a lot of work for potentially nothing. So a really fascinating product for sure. So we know the actually this is a great place to kind of maybe dig a bit deeper in terms of what problems were you trying to solve. Were they specific problems in the tender process?
There's kind of a whole host of different problems that you fix it. So my experience was large corporates, but I think actually SMEs can benefit most, and we should probably come back to that. So in large corporates, and they all seem to have similar issues. You've got multiple business units, you've got lots of different projects, really good case studies, but no one necessarily knows what all those case studies are. So data collation and management is really tricky and normally done really badly. And you find that you've bought a business that had the exact case study you needed. You find it at about 3 hours after you submitted. That's pretty normal. You'll find that as the bid comes in, you struggle to free up resources. When you do find resources, they may not actually be very good at writing. They might be really good at other things, but writing is a different skill. And so often I've experienced you found the expert on cybersecurity or whatever it is, and he's only available between 5:30 and 6 a.m. in the morning as he drives somewhere on client side. And really tricky to get that kind of quality input up front. You find a new team, these teams go through this sort of forming, norming, and performing, and you have to immediately perform with a team that just arrived on day one because you never get enough time. And so some organizations have structured bid management teams, which is really good, but those bid managers are often generally doing administrative things just to bring everything together, and they're not necessarily doing direction. And you get talented people who spend a lot of time just chasing other people and then rewriting it. So you get these interesting challenges of how do you get a coherent message across a whole bid. If the bid could be for really big values of tens, hundreds of millions, it could have 100+ pages in it. How do you get a consistent theme across those hundreds of pages? I mean, AI can do it, but humans find that really hard because, each section is being written by a different person. I talked about the sort of tone of voice, and you think about an interesting challenge. If your tone of voice changes during the bid, if there's a reader who reads it end to end and it feels like they're being spoken to by 6 different people, that is not generating you a good impression, and it might not get formally marked, but it sure as hell will be informally marked, particularly if you kind of have typos on your business name. I remember that some organizations don't have a, how do you say it, how do you abbreviate it, and people do it differently, and then you find almost it sounds like a different organization. That does not build confidence. AI can really, really help with that. There are also issues around red team processing. So the bigger the value of bid, the more senior people need to turn up and show that they've contributed. And you find senior people have a habit of disagreeing with each other over the right answer. They also being really busy, and they don't read the question, or they read the solution and then they write something helpful. Like, I think it'd be better if we had a picture on this page. It's not helpful contribution, So and the more companies I talk to, bidding is not done very well in, I think, probably the UK. I think the US are a bit more focused on this kind of stuff, and sort of have been. But I think we tend to do lots of training and the sort of sales training, and people recognize the value of a customer relationship, which there surely is. If you don't know what your customer wants when you write the bid, you are in trouble. But I think the bid management processes are often not well done. And actually, they train the salespeople, maybe they train some authors, but actually it's the entire entity works together to produce something. And that's not embedded properly. I'm also not going to say that AI is a panacea and you just drop an AI bid writer on it and suddenly choirs of angels sing and you win everything from now on. That's not.
That'd be nice.
It would be nice. If I come up with a product that sort of does the choirs of angel approach, I'm definitely going to start charging more for it.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I do think there are interesting future versions. I think AI tech continues to evolve. It's going to create more opportunities. But actually, if you like anything, if you automate a bad process, you've just got a bad process that works faster. That doesn't get you anywhere. So there are some adoption challenges with this stuff. The culture of the business, the willingness to adopt it, the assurance processes as well, who decides things. I think it's also interesting that AI is talked about a lot, but still not generally understood very well at a user level. So people use things like ChatGPT. People are pretty prompt it, get answers. They maybe aren't getting the best answers they could because they're maybe not that skilled with it. Maybe don't understand the limitations of it as well. And I think there's a real danger. People go, "Oh, I asked ChatGPT and it told me some facts." Well, some of them were probably facts and some of them might have been made up. And how do you tell? Which is why you need to really be careful. And one of the things that we thought about from the beginning is that our tool must not invent anything. Any bid writer must not invent things. Although I did note that I've worked for a number of sales directors who very happily invented credentials and were super confident that we'd definitely done things we definitely hadn't. But a bid writer can't invent. There has to be a source, there has to be a trace. I think the government is currently is tracking whether you're using AI, and frankly, everybody's using AI on some level. I mean, there's at least one AI dialed into this call recording what's happening. So, that's quite normal. It doesn't mind it, but it needs to make sure that it's saying that there's truth coming in, if that makes sense.
It's so important, isn't it? Because you especially when you're writing a bid, applying, to get the work, you don't want to, misportray what you can do with the client, right? You don't want you want an honest, true bid, but you just want it written beautifully and quickly so that you can focus on your other tasks, right? Am I heading in the right direction there of the kind of the solution?
And if you write a bid that has fallacies in it, and those fallacies were what enabled you to win the contract. If that's ever discovered, that contract is invalid and somebody else should have won. And public sector works to try and be fair. So you could risk losing that contract, having it taken away from you, possibly being banned from future procurements. I mean, you're probably familiar with Fujitsu's rather difficult time over the last few years. Procurement Act 2023 creates improved potential to blacklist suppliers. So maybe it's too far gone to take this contract from a supplier, but they might not be allowed to bid for the next one. And that could have massive business consequences. So, from an AI provider's perspective, providing a service, that service has to not generate problems down the line. Absolutely can't.
I love this. So, I mean, in terms of, maybe the solution, so we know the problems we're trying to solve here. What's the solution? What are you able to do? What are the kind of the end results here? Is it time saving, ROI, more bids won? How do you kind of measure things, I guess?
I mean, I think for businesses you've got to go ROI. How you get the ROI, there are probably a couple of ways, and I think that depends a bit on the business. So you could, our AI bid writer will save something between 30 and 50% of the time on a bid, depending on the bid itself, the teams, and how difficult the kind of commercial and pricing sections are, because some companies have to do something themselves, right? So if you save 50% on your bids, you can effectively write twice as many bids a year. That, if your win rate is consistent, then you logically will win something around twice as much, logically. You could also use it to write maybe the same number of bids, but really spend a bit more time on them. So philosophically, at the moment, we would say, right, use our tool, get yourself a draft almost immediately. So the normal bid cycle, and there's a talent friend of mine actually written a book on persuasive writing, a chap called Anthony Gollidge. He had this nice graph that says, look, you've got a 2-week bid response. You've got an axis of kind of quality up the side and time along the bottom. The time you sort of start moving, the quality stays pretty low until the last few days, and there's sort of panic and it surges. And you get to where you get to, and everybody works all night. With an AI writer, you generate a draft within about 5 minutes, and then you've got the 2 weeks to make that better. So you end up with somewhere higher. And if you look at competitive tendering, you very often, you don't win by that much. You win or lose could be 2 or 3, maybe 5%. So if you can use that time to write a better bid, and you get a 5% higher score, you're going to win more. And you mentioned before that often you write bids and you don't win. I mean, competitive tendering, you might see 25 bidders, 24 of them are going to lose. So you should only be doing it if you have a reason to believe you can win. So the other thing we can do, so not only we do things like you can write this bid quite quickly, you can produce that draft, and then you can spend time thinking about the extra bits, really bring in the customer perspective, really bring in those things that might get you a point or two. We can also we have a bid evaluation tool. So it'll give you an output mark. So it'll go, oh, this question it'll get you 65% for that, we think. Now, we're not saying we're going to be right every time. Different moderators work differently. Some have different preferences, but we're saying that's what we think. And it's a pretty decent system. It's accurate a lot in testing. Here are your weaknesses, go and address them. That's enormously powerful because it's also instant. I actually had a conversation with a customer who just wanted to do a little review, and we put his answer into our tool, gave him feedback within under a minute, and he went, oh, right, wow, that's exactly what I've just said. He said, that saved me a day. It took you 5 minutes to do. You can use that time for so many good purposes. If you take it back to our ROI, so you're bidding more, same win rate, or bidding the same, higher win rate, you're still winning more. It doesn't take many tenders, many deals of a couple of million to make an ROI that's thousands of percent, frankly. The other way you could look at it is you might have, and this is much more the SME issue, you've got a limited team size, you've got a limited budget, and you know in your heart of hearts that you really, to grow, have to hire a bid manager because your teams are just squeaking at the pips and they aren't getting the bid volume out that you need. You want more to be written, there's always more coming in, everybody's getting stressed. But to find 50, 60,000 pounds to hire a good bid writer, maybe you've not got the budget. So and buy an AI tool for a fraction of that, and suddenly everybody gets better and faster, and you get the same benefits. So there can be really good ROI in there. I think what I've been thinking about, and I saw a really good speaker saying this, and I'm starting to hear it more and more, it's not that AI will take away people's jobs, but people with AI will take away the jobs of people without AI. So a bid manager.
It's a really good analogy. I love that.
It's not mine. I forget the name of the guy who said it, sadly, but I can't take credit for it. It's too good. But you give a good bid manager AI, they will start writing a lot of good bids. Equally, a bad bid manager with AI will just write more sort of adequate bids. And I think that, again, the skilled people get enabled by AI massively, and that'll drive your win rate up. And actually be quite rewarding. A bid management is a pretty frustrating job sometimes when you're not getting wins, and you're often. I spoke to people who say we're being told to bid this, but we know we're not going to win, which to me feels daft, Jonathan. I mean, that's just disappointing. You know, you got into bid writing to win stuff, and you are being told bid it, and you know your price will be too high.
Yeah. It's you know what as well, it just levels the playing field, right? You know, SMEs now, you know, as you say, don't have the budget to hire a bid writer.
Yeah.
But how do you compete with the big boys, you know, the big guy, you know, the big businesses that have a team of bid writers, you know, and it really does level things up in a fair way. So, you know, this is why I love AI, because it really does level things out, and you've got to keep the human in the loop, right? And this product does exactly that. It kind of creates the foundations. You know, you then need to create on top of that, but to improve efficiency and the bid writing process. I think this is a really solid product. So I'm really I'm loving it. So it kind of, yeah, as I say, it levels out everything, which is awesome. What's the kind of have you seen any kind of results so far? Have you got any you know, particular, I don't know, maybe success stories that come to mind, or any kind of like yeah, any results really that you can share?
So obviously there's a bit of confidentiality, so I can't really name anybody.
Of course, no, of course. More from a, I don't know, from a generic perspective.
So we've had, and not all of our customers will reveal all of the wins or losses, but if they keep paying, that's and they do. We've had some of the ones that we talk to very closely. We've got some sort of bid partners who we really go on the journey with, and they're getting kind of 90% plus scores in the bids they're putting in, and winning things. And actually, what I really like working with are professional bid writers. There's a whole community of people who've gone solo and independent and write bids, and of course, they live or die by win rate. You literally pay your mortgage. Excuse me. You pay your mortgage based on your ability to win more work and write more bids for people, and you only do that if you win things. Really high win rates. They give us really good feedback. We've got a community of those writing them. I'm always, you know, thinking the catchphrase. We might be the kind of bid writers AI bid writer, which actually maybe that's not a great catchphrase, but you get the idea.
I get the gist for sure. I get the gist. You need to go down the pub again with Dave. You'll get that name, I'm sure.
Sort of, my best work is done while drunk, which sadly right, Jonathan.
All great ideas come, I guess, from being, I don't know, I guess out of the workplace, right? I've always come up with great ideas, glass of wine in hand, and yeah, the thought process just goes, right? So I've really enjoyed this, Sandy. I think you've been such a good guest, and
Thank you.
you know, the problem, you know, is being solved here, and I love it. And you're using AI for the good, for sure. You're leveling things up. So, Sandy, I think you've been a fantastic guest. Thank you very much for joining, and I look forward to seeing the progress as well. Let's get you back on in 2026, and you can say all the, you know, tell me how many problems you've solved, the billions you've earned, and that kind of thing. We can do the podcast from your yacht or whatever. You know, it's it's completely up to you. But I really wish you the very best of luck. It's a great
Thank
product.
you, Jonathan. No, it's been really good, been really interesting. It's nice to talk about it with people as well. So
Awesome.
hopefully we can democratize it for SMEs, and they can start leveling the playing field against the bigger corporates. I kind of look forward to seeing that happen, and how it can change the market in the UK, so we can start to see things getting kind of better for public sector procurement, and start seeing taxpayers' money spent better would also be really nice.
I think the whole UK would be loving that for sure. So look, Sandy, thank you so much again. Look forward to seeing your progress.
Thanks, Jonathan. Catch you soon.
Cheers.